Welcome to South Park Commons, New York. Woo! Thank you guys for coming. I know you're not here to hear from me, so I'll be very brief, but I'm a partner on the team at South Park Commons. I help run our New York office. We've been here for about 2 and a bit years. Our model really is to support creative, technological innovation and research. Our community is equity-free. It's for people who want to go do full-time technical exploration. We don't charge, we don't take equity, we just want really smart people to come together, to come build with us every day, and then hopefully get the privilege to invest in what you build, and maybe one day it'll look like what these guys are building. So find me after the event. I'm happy to talk more about SPC, but that's not why we're here. So let me hand it over to Thomas, who can talk to you about this amazing event series.
Thanks, Dylan. So yeah, I'm Thomas, co-founder and CEO of Raycast. We're building a productivity tool since 6 years, and since a couple of weeks or months, we have a second product, which is called Glaze, which allows you to just build any desktop app you want with AI, so you just prompt it into existence. But today we want to talk a bit about what we call a new standard. And I don't know about you, but I don't know, since the beginning of the year, like my job has changed and got flipped upside down. They're like skills, agents, commands, MCPs, God knows what. And everybody tries to figure out how we change the way of working. And so we set ourselves out going around, and we were a couple of days ago in San Francisco, where we did a similar event, and we wanted to stop by in New York, and wanted to chat to two of the companies that we admire. Linear, since I think 2020, I begged Kari to get us into the Linear beta, and since then we're using them happily. And then Anthropic, I'm an Opus guy. I burned way too many tokens on you. But yeah, we wanted to hear like firsthand how companies basically change. Well, some build the foundational models, others go to like changes in their products, and I think it's top of mind for everybody how this changes. So this is going to be like an open conversation. If you want to chat to us later, find us, and then let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Do you guys want to start by obviously explain a little bit about Linear and Anthropic and your role and what you're building, but also, tell us a little bit about you and your own personal journeys, because I think that will help for a more fruitful conversation.
You can go first.
Okay. I'm Michael. Very nice to meet all of you. I am a member of the technical staff at Anthropic, which is a fancy term. I'm a software engineer. I work on our API team. And most recently, I've been working on a project called Cloud Managed Agents, which is a set of API endpoints that allow you to just get like a fully hosted agent online and scales with you and everything. But all that is boring. I'm not here to talk about that. How did I get here? Is that the question?
Go for it.
Okay. Well, I walked over. A couple of years ago, I was working at a different company, and we all got a message on Slack that Microsoft released this thing called Copilot with this company called OpenAI, and we're like, what the hell is this? And like many of you, I downloaded that extension and started using it, and I think I was like, okay, well, what do I do? And I wrote a comment that was like, implement like this calculator function, and it did it. And I was like, whoa, that is weird and crazy and all that stuff. And I think like very, very quickly after that, I started looking at jobs at AI companies. And then I landed at Anthropic.
Cool.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
I started at Anthropic in 2024. Okay. I had my what the fuck moment in the earlier part of that year.
Okay, yeah. So I'm Tom. I'm head of engineering at Linear. I've been with the company for like 4.5 years, I want to say. I was just telling these guys, came across to the US in 2011. So I spent the vast majority of my adult life building startups of various levels of success, but always kind of working on things that help people work together, right? So a lot of collaboration tools. spent 5 years working on like a tool for design version control that let you kind of like version control sketch files. So you can imagine where that kind of got to. Then before that, like video conferencing for remote teams. Also worked on like documentation tooling, and now finally Linear. So it's kind of like this conglomeration of all sorts of project management tools.
Well, you, Tom and Thomas, you guys have recently released new products. Every other week, Anthropic is eating up old products.
Every other day.
How do you guys know what to build next, and how do you feel confident that they're not going to eat it the next day?
I think you never feel confident at that time, at least it's what we feel. But with Glaze, what we did like last summer, we sat down and said like, hey, look, world is changing, which part we want to play in. We like a desktop app, so we said, okay, our expertise in desktop apps, and how can we leverage that expertise? And then within a week, we had a prototype of building basically end-to-end desktop applications that you can share with AI. They look pretty, they integrate nicely with macOS, they can all use the native functionality. And then the team got super excited, and then it was basically go time to get this out as soon as possible. And from there on now, we like basically onboarding users and getting people on it. But yeah, you never really say what to do next. But we like basically looked at what is maybe possible in like the 3 or 6 months timeline, and like look a bit ahead. And it's maybe like not super perfect right now, but in 6 months the model will catch up with it, and then hopefully you basically have the product in the market and then can ride a wave. That's how we basically looked back last summer to the product.
And how much of it is balancing how people are using the product versus your vision for how you think they should and will use the product?
Yeah, like for us it's always weird. We tend to build products that we want ourselves and then find those users. It's weird, but like if you have a good product sense, I think you can get quite far with that. And then to really scale it up, you then maybe need to like flesh that out a bit more. But we basically build it sort of for ourselves. We have a good grasp on like what our users want from Raycast and translated that to Glaze. And basically use sort of like our instincts almost. Like if we are really happy with it, and then we give it to the first people and we see they glow in the eyes when they're using it the first time and they get excited, then we feel like, okay, there is something to go off on. And there are like obviously a gazillion things you need to figure out, but usually like the faster you can move and the scrappier it can be at the beginning, the more progress you can make in a shorter time. And it's sort of this course you go through, and you do a few things wrong and a few things right, and then hopefully end up somewhere interesting.
It kind of resonates. That's what we do too. We build what we want, and hopefully other people want it too.
What does a world for Linear look like if agents are just doing all the work?
I think we're kind of already in that world, and it's looking pretty good for us.
I mean, those agents are using Linear, so.
They are. We're also kind of, moving fast to build the orchestration layer for agents as well. So Linear is like a control panel for these things. It's the place where all of the context is collected for the product development process in particular. Like we want to bring in like all of your customer support tickets, like maybe the sales conversations you're having, the product meetings you have, distill that down, help you figure out what to build, and then help kind of like control that process, and eventually like track it through to. So we actually released like releases today, just like our take on helping you track that through to actually what's live, what's in the app store, what's on the server.
Do you actually see Linear being used less or more? Just judging by our sort of internal workflow, I think.
Don't tell me you're using it less. Get out.
But like we have often those Slack threads, and then like we throw in a coding agent to fix it right away instead of creating a Linear issue for some cases, right? But I'm just wondering, that's maybe just us, but what you've seen.
No, I think that's definitely like, yeah, I mean, I do that, right? Like I'm not gonna create a Linear issue for something that I just spot a spelling mistake. I just fix it, right? Like that's always been the case, even before agents. So I think you don't wanna...
I feel like a sufficiently good AI agent model, whatever, like will be smart enough to be like, oh, this is like a lot of work. I'm just gonna break this up and put this into Linear. Like
that too, yeah. But like overall, I think like obviously like, and probably everyone's heard it a million times in the last 6 months, but like the Jevons paradox thing, right? Like the easier we make development, the more of it there is, and I think like that's proving true for us. Like our growth is accelerating every month, not going the opposite direction. So it's looking good on that front. And also like our MCP server is really, really used. Like I can't describe how successful MCP. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's like I think a lot of startups were like, oh, we'll just we'll put the founder on the MCP server and they'll build it in a weekend. Like I don't know if other people saw that. And that's kind of what we did. And then oh my god, there's 1 million people using it. Like
I hope you have leaderboards because I have to be on the top of your leaderboard. I love that MCP server. Like it is my go-to for everything.
it's like not special. It's
No,
like the
it's just
specialness
like-
is in the model, right? Like it's great.
Well, that and like the fact that linear is just like feels like the type of thing that is really well suited for the world of AI. It's like simple and opinionated enough that you can't really like do one thing in 5 different ways, and but it's still flexible enough for them to be able to like get creative with it. Like I have an entire linear board that is I don't touch any part of it. It's entirely managed by my agents.
I think Michael answered your question.
Why do you think that's the case?
Because I'm lazy. I don't know. Like I tend to like start my projects with like a high level like vision of what I want to see happen, and then I use Claude to like make it real, and then I'll start breaking up the technicals, and I'll use Claude to make that real. And then from there, it's like that's like a week or two's or a day of Claude's work. So Claude is better suited to self-manage than I am.
I guess the question I'd love you all to help understand is you can vibe code probably some shittier version of all of these things. Like what makes users love what you're building that would be more sufficiently, maybe not defensible, but usable than what you could vibe code?
I mean, like, have you used linear? It's like it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
SPC loves linear.
This entire talk is just about how much I love linear.
I don't
by
need
the
to
way.
say anything. This is great.
I like the vibe coding thing. Like, yeah. Like, I guess that could be viable. I think probably many of you are starting to experience this in integrating AI into your organizations. Something that's becoming increasingly important is the role of like multiplayer or like multi-human in the world of AI. And like, you could probably vibe code something that does that. Like, is that worth your time? Like, linear is really well suited for like many users. And that's like something that like we're still grappling with ourselves. Like we don't really know how to hold these things, but we're trying to figure out how to make collaboration with both humans and AI kind of work. I don't really have a good answer for that, but we're trying.
We've put a lot of time into thinking about that. So like when you're buying linear or using linear, you're kind of you're purchasing those opinions and like all of that time that we've actually put into this, as opposed to like it's not Kanban board, right? Like there's 1 million of those.
Do you mean like specifically like when you build something, like how do you get like something that works instead of like just vibe coding, or what the angle?
Sure, you can answer that.
Oh, I don't know. I would say by default, I would say the stuff that AI generates, you should probably be quite careful. Like it is always adding new stuff. So you start with it, and it will usually never remove something if you don't say it. It adds more and more and more. And so initially it might be good, and then like within 2 weeks you have this monster in front of you, and nothing really works anymore together. And probably a lot of you have seen this yourself. So what we try to do is like we have like a good skeleton where like there's some proper engineering involved, and then other people can contribute to it. And so the surface of where somebody operates on is then a lot smaller. What we've seen as well is that it enables also non-technical people to contribute. Like some of our designers are amongst our top code committers nowadays. And that is basically the case because they build sometimes entire features, or they go into the code base and improve things that they have a keen eye for that maybe an engineer doesn't have for. And so like depending on the role, they work on different angles. And so I think, yeah, like even though models get better and better, they have still like lots of flaws in my eyes, where like those things are basically oftentimes putting you in a corner and they're so eager to do something, versus like the best engineers remove stuff or never add stuff or make it super simple. And so finding that balance is, I think, still something which is like trying to figure out.
I'm curious how you like reconcile, because like we're experiencing this too, where like a lot of people, like you don't have to be a technical person anymore to contribute to the product or code or whatever. But like, do you have standards around like how PRs are accepted or anything like that? Like, because right, like a well-intentioned but like somebody who just doesn't know as well might make your code base like way worse or like cause an incident or something like that.
Yeah, maybe a bit weird. We don't require pull requests, so you don't need a review and can just push.
But you have a desktop app, so this
Yeah.
isn't going straight to production.
No,
right?
exactly. Like we basically push and then it gets tested internally. So the moment it goes out, it's been like in the desktop app for like a week or two or whatever. So it's a bit of a different workflow. But this has been for us pre-AI and we didn't really feel the need of changing. But then we had like less technical people coming and they created like massive pull requests and like we had to basically teach how to break it down and like make smaller changes, like kind of as you would teach a junior person who is just super eager to do something. And basically they just need to teach some best practices. And we had like good success with that. And then oftentimes what also happened, sometimes an engineer builds like the functionality out and then an designer takes it over and basically integrates it and brings in the polish and the quality. And I think that's a really nice way to collaborate. And when you check with our designers, like they use a lot less Figma because like we have everything in the product. They just go in and make changes right away there and prototype, and they try out sometimes 5, 10 different things in parallel, and then we pick one as like because we feel it in real life. It's not just like you look at pixels, you get a product, you try it out, you pick the one that you actually want to have, which I think is like super powerful.
Like it's funny how you said you have the engineering and then the designers like polish it. And like I feel like we've seen the opposite flow a couple of times recently where we have like remote coding agents built into Linear now, so you can just, tell it to change something and then get the preview link. And so like our designers will just mock something, like they're not looking at the code, right? They're just mock, and then they'll put it in as a PR for an engineer to look at. And like you say, it's 1,000 lines of maybe not the best code. And it's like, okay, now an engineer has to take this and they've got to decide what to do with that. Like, do I throw that away? Do I try and make it work? Do I try and load? And this is a workflow we haven't like figured out yet. I think you've kind of got to just treat it as a mock-up and like probably start again. But like, okay, I've got a great spec now.
Yeah, we've seen this as well, like plenty of times. And we tried to do handoffs and that didn't really work well. And we let Claude write a plan out of it and that didn't really work well.
It's faster to rewrite the code than it is to kind of like figure out 1,000 lines of code sometimes.
Yeah, basically. Because you have a reference, right? You know, like, this is what I want to do. And you can bring in then your own knowledge. But yeah.
SPC internally, we have a pretty big team, and our founders are pushing everyone to ship PRs. I am not technical. I have not shipped one yet. But
What?
Try it out.
this is what they tell me.
Fun. It's very fun.
Let's
Very
do it now.
addicting. Very addicting.
This is also what they tell me. Are you seeing both internally and then in your ecosystem, like more and more non-technical users using your products?
Definitely internally. And like I had a meeting this afternoon that was an hour long, and during that meeting, 3 people in the meeting put PRs in. I shit you not. And 2 of them were merged by the end of the meeting. This was not a meeting about code. They were completely unrelated to the meeting.
But it's like the superpower, right? You can just shortcut everything. And it's like, oh yeah, I know it, pang, and it's done. It's like so much better than
It's out in
discussing
production
everything.
before the end of the meeting. Absolutely
It's like
crazy.
the best time ever to like have ADHD. Like you could just like multitask so well.
But yeah, like we see this like non-technical people using it. We saw like our head of finance, like she used Glaze to build all her dashboards with Stripe, pull data from the Anthropic dashboard, and she built basically her own apps. She'd never written a single line of code. She just basically get those information, and she built her own little finance tooling, which she now shares within the company, so everybody has access to this kind of stuff. My thing is like, you maybe don't need to like contribute to code, but I'm like all in on token maxing. Like you should burn as many tokens as possible. Like, because it's like, if you think about it, you want to learn this thing, right? And when you want to learn thing, you need time and you need to have repetition and sort of like the 10,000 hour mark in the real life. I think it's the same for tokens. You need to burn billions of tokens to actually understand how the model works, what doesn't work. The nasty bit is you need to do this every 3 months. Like you cannot do it once because then the new model comes out and then you need to basically test this again. And so you need to just find ways to do this and hopefully there's something productive coming out of those billion tokens.
Well, the productive thing is the question, like to what end?
If you learn something, it's great. Like, I don't mind. If you
How
ship
much does it
product.
cost to learn something?
You ask him.
A lot of money.
I mean, like, are you actually? It's a good question. Are you one of these companies that has like a leaderboard for?
I spend $6,000 in a month on Cursor. Like, we have a leaderboard. Everybody can use everything. People use Codex, Claude, whatever. We don't really care. If it gets too expensive, we might look at it. And some people ask me like, "Hey, I feel like I use Codex a lot. Can you look at the leaderboard?" And then they're the 10th person or something like this. So it's never enough in a way. And I just want people like trying it out. Like I think because you learn something, and if you learn something, then the next thing comes, and you get more fluent in how you use the tool, as with every other tool. So yeah.
Do you see that you have a leaderboard?
Well, 3 by all different providers.
Oh, maybe you should vibe code something to put it into one.
That was a good idea.
Yeah. Do you actually see that the people that are top of that are like your star employees?
There is, I mean, you see the ones that are on top of it, they ship
Is
the
that
most
you?
code.
I got a badge, actually. I got an award during AI Week. So, I would say I'm sorry.
So she's only using dictation now, so every text you get from her is dictated. So that's her tokens to spend. But you see definitely correlation, like the people who have the most tokens are usually the ones that commit the most code. Now you can ask, like, committing the most code, is it good or bad? That's a different question. But there is a correlation because when you learn, you just, I think, have a higher agency. You just see, oh my God, I can just do this, and I can spend time like running 5 things in parallel, and your mind like wanders around, and you spend very differently the time.
If tokens are like an imperfect measure of like productivity increase, it's not PRs either, right? Or commits or anything like that, because like I commit a lot of trash into my code base all the time.
Look, I'm sure you would love tokens to be the measure of
I don't
the
know.
productivity economy.
I also go on call for the API, so when shit's on fire, like that's me at 5 a.m. Like
You're right. Like PRs is not it either. I mean, we try to bring it back to like the actual features and like the actual features that have been shipped, and like what is the craft behind them, like what's the thinking behind them, like the time, how long it takes to ship things, stuff like that. I just worry that like token maxing is like it's like bums in seats. It's the remote equivalent of the bums in seats in an office.
I like measuring some of this stuff for myself. Like I have my own thing that like I vibe coded a little graph that shows me how many things I'm merging and all that stuff. But like I don't really, I mean, I guess I could use it to look at other people's stuff, but like for me, it is more interesting to see, I guess, like how productive I have been as a new model came online. Like, Opus 4.6 came online and like my thing just, and that was like interesting to see. And it also helps me like revisit the way that I think about using some of these tools. Like it used to be that like I had to handhold it and tell it like, hey, I need you to implement X, Y, and Z. And nowadays it's more like, hey, I need you to go tell your Claudes that you're managing to go do X, Y, and Z. And like that kind of change. I mean, I'm sure it's made my token count skyrocket, but it's enabled me to like rework how I hold the tools.
I think it's also oftentimes the tokens you produce, you maybe throw away because you maybe do 5 things in parallel, or you try to do the same things 5 times, or you just have this idea when you're on a walk and spin up an agent and see if this thing works or not. So not everything ends up in production, which you could argue is like wasted, right? But I think like because it's so easy to build stuff now, you also don't just want to shit every crap. So you want to have like something which you also have some curation, and I think that's like comes with it as well, because there are people who like just want to try out stuff, and you see it, and then you feel like, oh, this actually isn't that great after all. Let's leave this out. Or somebody else maybe says, hey, this is a nice solution, but maybe we can do this better somewhere else and integrate it nicer. So I think there's definitely some weird way you need to curate, and then also maybe go back to certain decisions and say, actually, this maybe was a bad thing in the past, and we like throw something out, which is always hard to do, or like hide somewhere in the UI.
The question I always have with the token usage metric is, can it force people to do the low-hanging fruit, essentially show that they're busy, instead of, and maybe in how you guys evaluate talent. Like, are you looking for people that can just use these tools, burn tokens, or are you looking for people who can make strategic decisions on actually where the business should go?
That's a good question. Like we've thankfully been able to clear out a lot of our backlog for like all of those extra small, medium-sized tasks, which is nice. But I don't think that we like really measure people's like success and like how they've done based on that. I think we benefit a lot, at least within my little sphere within the company, with having like high degree of trust and coordination that happens between humans, not between us and AI. So that we are just very on top of each other, just watching out for one another, making sure that the decisions we're making are good, and that someone is not just token maxing for the sake of doing it. But that might be a unique experience. I'm not sure.
I think every metric you pick is flawed at the end of the day. So because, well, you can always game everything, right? So I think it's more like one angle to look at, and then there's a lot of other nuances you need to also think about, right? You can like just set something up on a loop, and then it runs forever and burns billions of tokens, and nothing happens, right? But I think like with common sense, you figure this out, right? So I think it's a combination of that. But I do think like the more you use a tool, the better you get at it. That's just with every tool I've seen so far in my career.
Have you seen like sometimes I have weeks where I just can't code at all and I can't contribute anything because X, Y, and Z happen and I'm just not heads down. Does that change? Like, did any of this new era, the new standard, change the way that you think about how roles are happening? Right? Because like engineering is solved, big air quotes on solved, but like it no longer matters whether or not I'm a good software engineer. I've never been a good software engineer. Like now it's just like I'm an idea guy and I can steer my team to go do X, Y, and Z. Like, is that becoming more important to you? Is that becoming less important?
Yeah, I think like you have like those different roles, right? Designer, engineer, product manager, maybe, right? But they're all
Forward deployed engineer.
Oh yeah, the hot shit. Yeah.
Member of the technical staff.
Member of the tech.
But they're all sort of collapsing, right? They're all the same stuff. At the end of the day, you're building a product, and people bring maybe different expertise to it. There's somebody has great visual taste, they look at the problem differently. There's somebody that come more from a technical angle, they look at the problem differently. And there's somebody from a product angle that look at it differently. But like if engineering is solved, then the AI helps you to like almost expand your role rather than like make it smaller, because you can suddenly, if you're a designer, you can do a bit of engineering and a bit of product management. And I mean, even back in the days when I worked at Facebook, you had this like product engineer role, which was already sort of this mix, and there's a design engineer, which is a bit of that. I think we just see more of that. On the higher level, I think there is like, when I think about engineering, like there are two stereotypes basically. There's one builder, which is somebody where I would include myself. I just want to build something. Like code for me was always a means to an end. It's the medium.
Same.
Yeah, it's the medium I create. My code is probably not pretty. And then there are other people, they want to write code. That's their love. And for them, it's much harder giving up that passion, right? Because suddenly you don't write that code anymore. And so that's, I think, the two buckets which I would think about.
We've actually seen a big transition of people in that latter category moving into hardware or hardware-enabled software, because at least today, until Anthropic releases something new,
Tomorrow.
it requires the art of code and actually building from first principles.
Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't thought about that. But we had like one engineer in the company. I mean, he's still at the company. I talked to him because I know he was always passionate about writing the code himself and really was sort of priding himself of like being a good engineer in that case. But he's a smart guy and he realized like, okay, this doesn't go anywhere. And so he basically made this deliberate choice, giving something up he loves. And it was hard. But then when he made that change, he like found passion somewhere else. He now builds like tooling for connecting to our database and optimizing our cloud synchronization with agents. So you find like basically different ways of like getting this passion up and going. But it maybe takes for some people more effort of trying it out. And then also the typical thing, if you tried AI out like a year ago and now it's like obviously night and day. So you can't compare those things.
He can probably have more impact now. Would you-
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah. I mean, he's like basically, made this choice of like going all in, and then you see like, then also like it changes suddenly.
Have you seen anybody like continue to be successful in either one of your orgs without relying so much on AI? Is there somebody who's just like a holdout and like loves their artisanal code?
If there is, they're being very quiet about it. I want to say.
If coding is solved, and actually be curious, does everyone here agree? Does everyone think that coding is solved?
Wait, I don't agree that coding is solved.
But if we're saying it will be, like, Tom, how big of an engineering org would a company like Linear need in the future?
You're hiring, right?
We are hiring, if you want to speak to me. It's actually very difficult to hire right now. I mean, we used to say, like, Carrie, our CEO, used to say, oh, we'll be like 50 people. And then we got to 50 people, and it's like, well, 100 people. And now we're like, 250 seems about right, you know? Like, so it's like, you know, you no matter how much money you have, you always want more. It's kind of like that, but for engineers. Your
Love
ambition
capitalism.
grows with the as time goes on. So I don't know. We don't see that slowing down. The need for more people, but it's like, as you say, it's not like raw writing of characters anymore. I mean, it hasn't been for years now. But I mean, I've been tab completing for I don't know how many years, but it really is about product thinking for us. Like, that's what we actually hire for, is who can make the right decisions in the moment, and that's a really hard skill to hire for.
How do you find those people?
One of on our engineering hiring loop, we actually have like a design chat in it where we kind of like have the person meet up with one of like our senior designers, and they will critique a product as part of it. So like, I don't know, we definitely hire for taste early doors, but I don't know. It is usually the builder type, honestly. But more than that, I don't know. They're kind of scattered all over the place in places you wouldn't expect to find them.
I'd also be very curious to see if over the next couple of years, I don't know what's going to happen with hiring. It's always kind of been a broken system, right, for a lot of technical people. Leak code is not a good way to measure whether or not somebody's a good software engineer. But I'm very interested in seeing if, like, maybe we just don't do coding interviews anymore. Maybe that's not the thing to test people for. It's like, hey, can you sit with an AI and figure out how to solve a problem?
Do you see hiring less junior people?
That's a good question. I literally just interviewed like one of the best junior engineers I've ever met. I hope he gets the offer. Like I gave him a strong yes, but I don't know. Every couple of months, I think of myself as the best Claude user in the world, and I'm like, I am the best at this. No one can trump me. I'm at the top of the leaderboard. And then like it's always new hires or like somebody who like joins, like a new hire, who usually are younger, I will watch them and how they do something, and I'm like, whoa, I never thought to not check in on Slack because Claude can pull. That's a bad example, but you know what I mean. Like there's just so many interesting ways, and I think younger people with more elastic brains are just going to be better at adjusting to these tools. So I personally don't think so, but I don't know. I'm not our HR.
What made this person the best junior hire?
That's a good question. I feel like they, like sometimes I just get stuck in my ways, like with how I use Claude to solve my problems. I'm literally currently struggling with this right now because I can see my coworkers out PRing me. But like I just feel like there's just like always new and inventive ways to like figure out how to remove yourself from the process, and also how to make sure that like the code you put up is really, really well written, right? Like that's a big problem for us, or at least for me, is like, okay, great, like Claude wrote like 500 lines of slop. I'm gonna try to read through it, but like that's not a good use of my time. So like, how do I make sure that it works well? I work on backend services, right? Like sometimes testing those is not as trivial. Like there's just like a lot of really interesting problems to solve with the world of AI, and like scaffolding your life around it to make sure that it does work very well. And I have found that people with less ingrained knowledge on like how things should be just do better because they're more open to trying new things.
Interesting. Did you change anything in hiring, like job interviews or something like this? I don't know.
Today, we literally had this discussion today.
Great timing.
Yeah, I know. Right? We Linear's always had a work trial as part of our process. It's kind of like it's for both sides, like how well do you match our culture? We have a remote environment, so that's definitely a big part of it too. Hopefully when people get to the work trial stage, we're quite confident. You know, like I think we want to see like an 80-90% success rate through the work trial ideally. But it's always been a week. Like so we have 120 people in the company today, and pretty much every single one of them has gone through a week-long work trial. But like we're seeing that the market is moving so fast, like we're losing hires because like people cannot do that. Like they come with 2 offers in hand, and it's like, I'm not going to spend a week. I'm sorry, I love Linear, but it's not worth it for me, type of thing. So we're chopping that down. We're doing everything we can to make our hiring process move faster as well. So everything moves faster, not just the AI is.
Hire and fire fast is a version of a work trial.
True. Yeah. And it's like, what is the real risk there, right? Like, I mean, sure, if we hired 10 people and fired 10 people on a team of 120, that might be a problem. But it's probably going to be more like maybe we fire 1 person that we wouldn't have hired before out of 10. Like, okay, we can deal with that. That's a risk we can take right now, like, especially seeing as we're short of engineers.
Taking this in like a slightly different direction, what do you think are the existential threats in years from now? Like, we did a debate last night at dinner if in 5 years from now we'd still be working on computers.
Wait, tell me that debate. What how did you get there?
Well, if agents are doing everything, why do we need computers? We can just have an audio form factor.
Oh,
to
you want the
instruct it
chip?
on.
You want the little thing that like sits on your thing and listens to you? Okay, I don't know. I'm a computer geek. Like I love, yeah, like that's I came to this industry because I like the world of software, and it drew me into it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and we won't look at screens anymore. That'll be really utopian, right? If we can go touch grass, but I feel like software, you know, like the 90s, like we had a massive revolution happen, right? Where like so much of our economy now is like. You see what you did? You see what you did?
Wow.
Wow, voice.
Terrible. Yeah, right? Oh my God, Apple's coming for me. But like, yeah, like I don't know, like the world went through like this massive revolution in the 90s and 2000s to like move so much of our economy to be there. I'd be very hard pressed to see that like move away. Also, like something that I thought about this because I was reflecting on like I won't have anything interesting to talk about when I come here. Like the people in this room, I'm going to make an educated guess, are in some upper quartile of people who know how to use and hold AI because you're here. You self-selected to come here, and you guys are who you are. And I didn't realize how much the outer world of my bubble is so not like that. So like I have friends who work at companies that are like big tech companies that are very AI forward in some parts of their org. And like they ask me questions like, oh yeah, I just discovered this thing called like subagents, and like, have you heard about this MCP tool calling thing? And I'm like, whoa, like I didn't realize that like I am living in a little bit of an echo chamber. So I think the diffusion thing is not.
Well, I quite literally have here, are we in a tech bubble, or do
Yes.
you see real world adoption outside of this community, people using your product?
I mean, yes and no, right? Like I'm in a tech bubble, but maybe you're not.
Where do you think we are on like the adoption curve?
I don't know. Ask my boss. Ask Dario.
I feel like it's still early adopters, right? Like,
Yeah,
honestly.
I think we're still very early.
Particularly outside of like just chat GPT type interactions of like, people are basically, most people seem to be just using it as like a glorified Google search.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
not actually doing it to be more effective at their jobs.
Yeah,
In
like-
realistic ways like engineers are.
The average person, the average software engineer probably tried Copilot when I tried Copilot 3 years ago and like did Alt Tab to figure out a function. It worked terribly, and then they never tried it again. And now they're hearing things on the news about how things are scary. So like I think that like companies that like have kind of like embraced what's coming a little bit earlier, the early adopters are like a plurality of who we're dealing with right now. I mean, I don't know, my Siri just went off on my phone, like, Siri AI, sorry, ain't it? So like, clearly there's a little bit of like a bubble going on here.
My Google Home can't even remember which, if I want it Celsius or Fahrenheit. I ask it, tell me the temperature. It tells me in Fahrenheit. It tells me, I will remember Celsius next time. 2 minutes later, Fahrenheit again. Like, ah!
Yeah, but I think like there is something changing, right? Like I think everybody builds the same shit at the moment, to be honest. Like everybody builds some agents, we're orchestrating something here, we write some code there, we do collect a bit of context here and there, we try to organize it, we connect to all our tools. And then you have like a gazillion of the same solutions, right? But everybody tries to crack that you can have sort of this kind of omnipresent system that is around there. And I think this will also have an impact on our devices because you want to have this in your pocket, you want to take it with you. But then also sometimes you want to have a visual representation because some people are more visual thinkers. You maybe want to have like something on a 2D canvas and connect. So I think like all the stuff from the past is really not the way to go. But it's really hard to disconnect from that because we're building on top of that. And so there is the question like, do you rip all of that out and start from scratch, which is probably impossible. So you're kind of like always limited from what we had in the past, right? And so the only change we've seen so far is when everything went on mobile and we changed how you use the computer, right? So when you're on a Mac, you like click and use a keyboard. When you're on your phone, you touch around. So that's like a different modality. And I think there will be something similar there. Like voice might be one of those if that gets a bit better, which feels quite natural, but it will not be the only thing, right? Because I feel like we are visual creatures, so you want to look at something, you want to modify something there. So I think they're fundamental, like a new way of like computing to think about it. And figuring it out is sort of the holy grail, right? Everybody tries to do this at the moment, and everybody does it somewhat differently. But if you like just squint a bit, everything looks the same. And so I don't know what's the solution, but it will be different in a few years, hopefully.
Are you taking on a just throw shit at the wall and see what sticks approach, or are you trying to be a little bit more nuanced about like, okay, this is where we're going to prioritize some of our efforts?
Yeah, a bit of both, I think. I think there is something, you need to try things out and a lot of stuff doesn't work, and then you always find something, oh, this is kind of interesting, and then you double click on that, and then you go a bit further and do the same, and then you may be ending up somewhere. What happens right now much more is like everything gets thrown out and kind of like see what sticks, right? In that regard, it's sometimes actually better not being the first one, because if you're the first one who threw out all this crap, you then have to deal with all this crap, and that means you need to start over again, right? Which is kind of what OpenAI does right now with their super app. They like said, okay, shit, we need to like have all of the coding in place, so now we're building that, and that's the new foundation. So they're kind of doing a reset. And so it's kind of like sometimes good when you're a bit behind, because you maybe then can build on top of new abstractions and learn from just what happened in the past. But like there is no clear solution, right? So it's always a bit of both, I think.
When you throw shit out, is the users just other people at tech companies?
Maybe sometimes you realize like you're actually after a different user, or like something just works for one user, which is maybe highly technical, but then you want to have another user which you can build on the same foundation, which I guess for you guys happened with like, oh, Cloud Code is like, wow, every developer uses it. Let's bring it to knowledge workers, let's make it Cloud Cowork, let's bring it to designers, let's make it Cloud Design. But on the hood, it's all Cloud Code, right? So it's just like wired up differently and wrapped around differently. And so I think you can then bend it around. But another approach could be you don't have 3 different services and just one agent you talk to and it does the right thing for you. That might come in the future. I don't know.
It feels like technically that would be fine. It's like a market positioning thing. Like let people know it can do these things.
Anthropic super app coming tomorrow. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I think I agree. I don't know. I think we're also still. I think there's like a lot of like implied understanding that like we know what we're doing. OpenAI knows what they're doing. Insider baseball, we have no fucking clue what we're doing. We're still trying to figure this out with the rest of you. We're trying to see what people react to well, what works and what doesn't. Every model generation completely changes our assumptions with that. I'm actually like for you, like linear is like an extremely beloved product, and like I'm not the only rabid fan out there of it, but it's also very let's call it simplistic in a lot of ways, right? Like on purpose, and that's part of like the design decisions made. How do you like with something like Linear Agent that you guys just released? Like, how do you decide like to the previous iteration of it, like what makes you think like, okay, this is not the form factor, like we're gonna throw it out? Like it's probably difficult when you have people who are like, no, like I want this, I need this, like why'd you take it away from me?
We don't really like the current form factor either, like it just got to a point where it's like, oh, like it's okay, we'll have to live with it ourselves. Yeah, probably like the third form factor we're on right now, and like it's not good enough. I think one of the things with linear is like we never feel like anything's good enough, ever. Like people will, like maybe this is a good thing for product development, but we'll launch something like there's a launch post, it goes into our Slack, it's like, hooray, we did this thing. The first comment is, that's misaligned. That's not good enough. Somebody go fix that immediately.
I have a lot of questions, but I do want to open this up for the audience. My one request, do not pitch yourself or your company. You'll have chances to do that at another point. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in and yeah, go for it. Just stand up and yell. Yeah.
Okay. Hi. Question for Tom. Because Kari has like a design background, right? You see a lot of that flow into the organization, and how is it different from your previous engineering experiences?
Linear is a lot less design driven than people think from the outside. Obviously it has a very nice surface, it's well thought out, but mostly it's kind of bottom up from the engineering team, built on like the foundations that the design team puts in place. I don't think that's too different from previous jobs or products. Just Kari is exceptionally good at putting those foundations in place, and he sees into the distance in the way that other people really don't. Like we just did a redesign a couple of months ago, and when you change anything around, people complain. So it's very hard to kind of pass the truth from reality in those situations. But he's looking like a year ahead at what we want to build, what's going to go where, like how these systems work together in ways that other people just don't see yet, honestly. Not just because they're not inside, but even inside we don't see sometimes. I don't know. That's not a very good answer, but.
Is this working because you hire for sort of this product taste as well?
I mean, yes, absolutely. Like the fact that we can trust engineers to make these decisions is a big part of it. Yeah.
You mentioned like being like a year out on stuff. Like have the last couple of months made you like revisit the like length of time you look forward at all? Because like shit's really fast to build now, and also like it's changing so much.
I mean, we have like broad swaths of the types of things we want to tackle, so I feel like that's kind of what the redesign helps to encompass. But then, like, yes, the individual like shippable units we try to do in like week, like 2 weeks, 4 weeks. Ideally, not more than that. We have had features go longer, but we all hate it when it happens.
I find it interesting that you say that it's a bottoms-up engineering culture, because to us, Linear is like a design-centric company.
Right. I mean, and we have a lot of great designers, but it doesn't feel like it's ran by design, if that makes sense.
Kunal?
Yeah, so all of you guys have products that have a cult-like following. People have a lot of loyalty. I'm curious, especially in a world where technology is no longer as defensible as it maybe was, how does like brand and that experience, that feeling of wanting to make people loyal, does that trickle down into the product work in any way?
Yeah, I mean, we thought about from the brand from the get-go. Like we felt like this was back in the days when we started 6 years ago already a way to differentiate yourself, to just stand out, and then also put your values a bit up front. If you like put a lot of effort into brand and design the brand in the right way, you can also give the feeling to the user. Is it like a professional tool? Is it more playful? All of those things line up. And so I think like at the moment it's even more important, because if everybody can build everything, like how do you stand out, right? So it becomes like you need to find different advantages in a way. And so that's why we like that sort of doubling down on brand in general and build our community. So from the get-go, we had users like really close. We have like a massively open Slack community where people hang out and give feedback. We have Petro doing like a ton of videos on YouTube so people like see how to use the tool. We think about basically we also want to teach people like how to best use Raycast and sort of think about, hey, we get like really great people like Toby Lutko on our YouTube channel from Shopify and like how he uses the tool and inspire others to pick it up. So we try to play with this a bit, doing events like this, going out, meeting our community in real life. And I think like this can set you apart, but you have to have at the foundation a great product, otherwise everything else usually falls apart.
I mean, all of you guys have big brands. Like Kari is like a huge following online. You have a big following online. You know, Dario's a character. Like, how important is it that the founder or the team or the company has like a big outspoken brand?
A brand or like a let's call it like a personality like that?
Both.
Okay.
Like I feel like Claude's brand could survive without Dario,
Yeah.
you know, spreading fear every week. Just thinking, maybe.
Dario, Claude is a little bit more humane, you know, so to speak.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's the perfect balance in a way.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that like I would like to say that like Anthropic is probably not really tied to like any one individual with it. Obviously, that's not always the case. I don't know how to answer a branding question, man. I don't know.
I don't want to get you fired. Don't worry.
No, I'm not gonna get fired. It's just like
I mean, it is interesting though. There are
Yeah.
very few kind of like outspoken Anthropic people that I can
I
think
think
about.
that's kind of by design. Like, or maybe not by design, but like we're very intentional about like not trying to like build up any one individuals or anything like that. Like we are very collaborative by nature in how we work and like very free form. Like people are constantly shifting teams and projects that they're working on just based on company priority and like what we sense is coming. And I think some of that permeates to how we like behave externally, where like when people are talking online or anything like that, like, you know, we have Boris who created Claude Code, and he's amazing. He's like such a interesting person to work around. But like we're not like really big on like hype posting, if that makes sense. I think we'd rather let the thing that we built speak for itself.
We're the opposite. We have literally a team hype, so Petro leads this. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's a job as well, right? Like, if you build a great product and nobody knows about it, like, then it's a bad product, basically. And not everybody can, like, blow up like Anthropic and has the luxury of, like, maybe, like, have the product, like, just run out and everybody knows about it, right? So I think, like, it's at the end of the day also, like, a job. So we travel here around. We like awake since 7 a.m. We flew in from San Francisco. Our team makes fun of us that we can travel the world, but it's like also a job somebody needs to do, not everybody enjoys. So it's just different skill sets. And sometimes that falls on individuals, which I think has sometimes the advantage that also a brand becomes a bit more personal. Like you have a face or multiple faces to like a brand, which people enjoy as well.
Hey, Jeremy Abel, thanks for sharing your thoughts. So with Linear Agent, you know, the headline was like issue trackers are dead, and you said you have a whole board that's just managed by agents. Like, is the future of issue trackers just like audit trails of your agents, and why have tickets at all?
I wish Kari was up here.
Send him my number after. I'll talk to him. No, I actually, I'm very curious about the issue trackers are dead thing. I do want to hear what you have to say about that after. I think my shtick with letting Claude manage his own projects is less so about like me not wanting to use the product or anything like that. It's just part of my job is to constantly test what these things are good and not good at, and provide feedback when it's not good at something, so that the next generation can be. And one of the things that I'd like to see it do is like own, not like the development of a product, but like own a product end to end. And we've had like a couple of like internal, at least to my team, like instances where we have like an internal tool or something that we like vibe coded. We don't care about it looking pretty. And like we literally have like a Claude that is set to full time, like not just develop it, but like PM it and like roll it out and like do all of the things. Like it owns that product, the internal product, like that is where I think a lot of the utility of these things is coming in, and that comes with it managing its own job and giving itself its own tickets and deciding when something is high priority versus low priority. So that's where that comes from. But yeah, I want to hear about this. Stop.
I forget what Kari's angle at this was, honestly, even though it was only 2 weeks ago. But like, yeah, obviously, I don't think anybody's buying like a simple issue tracker like they might have done 10 years ago. What we're building is like a system to help you build products. Issues are sometimes involved in that as a way to aggregate context, aggregate customer feedback, meeting notes, like, yes, an audit trail too, like why was this decision made, a place to keep those things, but they're not a requirement. And we certainly don't want them to be like the center of the product forever. What we really want to enable is just people to build excellent product as fast as possible. And I think we can do that in a lot of different shapes that aren't necessarily just issue tracking. Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. I think it boils down to collaboration, right? That's what you solve.
And obviously, like collaboration with agents now, I guess. Like that was the big change we made like a year ago, where you can assign issues to agents. I mean, that's interesting, right? Like a year ago, that felt like we were kind of ahead of the curve a little bit, slightly, just ever so slightly. It's like, oh, you can assign an issue to Cursor, and now people are like, why would I have an issue?
When I asked Claude to prepare some questions, one of the things was, ask what Linear thinks of issue tracking is dead means.
All right, great discussion, guys. Mike, you just mentioned Claude owning a product like a PM would. How is the role of product manager evolving in your companies? What's the future there?
The PM on my team literally published like a blog post about exactly this subject today. This is a plug to go read that now. Like I think you mentioned this earlier, where like I think that titles like engineer and product manager are just all kind of melding into this generic builder role. Like RPM puts up PRs and she gets roasted by us when she doesn't do well. Like engineers on our team who would normally never have any sort of like take on like how we develop a product. They just are used to getting a PRD and are now coming in and they're like, hey, actually like I've been holding this for a little while now. I don't think this is right. Like we should change it. So like I think all of these things are kind of weaving a little bit. I'm starting to get like inklings of Claude having good product taste. It's not gonna build linear, but it's getting there a little bit. I ask it questions here and there. But the thing that I was referring to was for like an internal tool that like it's not anything public facing. It's for like our like issue tracking or something like that. Not actual issue tracking, like problem tracking. What is that called?
We have like we had a question that we give to PM candidates, and we gave it to Linear Agent with all of the context of. So we had like a project. The project has like 100 customer requests attached to it, because like customer request is an entity in our system that comes in from Intercom or Slack or whatever with the specific want. And we gave the same question to the Linear Agent and it has all of that context to go off. Like, what do you think of this? Like, how would you break up this feature? Does this feature make sense? Like, is this actually 2 or 3 features? And the response that we get, like our head of product, Nan, who was in here, said it was top 10% of what we see coming from human candidates. Just from the Linear Agent. Oh. So that's fun.
We don't have any PMs, so I can't really answer.
I have a question. Obviously, you guys are all pretty strong engineers, and now we can move so much faster with AI. One of the things that I noticed, I could have multiple work trees, and whether I'm using Cloud Desktop or Conductor or whatever. Eventually, it starts to taper off, though, like the cognitive debt of all the different things I'm working on. And on top of that, then me putting out work, then I'm creating burden on teammates of reviewing that, making sure I'm not breaking things. Obviously, with strong companies like where you guys are, how are you guys managing that? Like the cognitive debt of everything you're working on, and then also making sure you're not breaking these complicated systems.
this really hits home. This is something that like my team for some reason is especially feeling right now. We're kind of like I don't know why we're an outlier in this case, but like one of my teammates, Gabe, is here. Everybody say hi to Gabe.
Hi, Gabe.
A fellow teammate of ours a couple of weeks ago put up 1,000 PRs over the course of a weekend. And we were like, what is going on here? Like, what are you doing? And me and Gabe had to like the three of us had to have like a big conversation about like, what does code review like look like these days? Like, did he review those lines of code? Probably not. And like, it wasn't like ill-intended or anything like that. Actually, like the majority of them got accepted. Like, they were good PRs, but like, there's a big cognitive burden. Yeah. I'm sure I'm not the only person here who's caught themselves at 2 a.m. still, one more prompting to their instance. If you have an answer, let me know. I don't know. I'm tired.
Who's more tired than they were a year ago? For our part, we are building code review into Linear and trying to do a good job of that. It's actually went to GA like yesterday, like quietly. It's kind of basic right now, honestly. Like we want to get something out the door, but we recognize that this is actually the new bottleneck as well, and we're trying to do our piece for it.
What do you think of all the code review startups, or is it something that you guys would just build internally?
I know we have our own like internal code review stuff. I struggle with this because like even our internal code review thing, like we have a lot of code and a lot of it encompasses a lot of various parts of our system. Like I work on our backend APIs. The code, like reviewing code for that is going to be very, very different from reviewing code for like an app that we're building. And some of it you can encode into the code base itself. You can give it like CloudMD and AgentMD files and all that stuff. But I feel like bespoke tooling is going to probably be best here, in my opinion.
I have a contrarian take, but I think like the tooling is bad. Because if you think about, you do a code review, right? So Tom looks at your code and says, that smells, right?
That's what our code review feature does. Yeah.
Perfect. But like, why do you need to wait for Tom to do this in the first place? Can he not like give you this context before? So when you're ending up with the code, it's already there. So I think it's just a scheduling issue. Because like if you have like a perfectly shared context within your team, you're not needing to end up with like somebody else looking at it. And it's the same with all these code review startups. Like for me, it makes no sense because why do I need to wait for them to review it? They can do it in the first place, right? It's maybe just a sub-agent running or whatever. So I think like it's just like a lot of the tooling that we build, the same with work trees and all these other workarounds, these are just workarounds because we don't have the tooling for the intelligence level we have. Because like if every code that was ever created in your code base, you would understand why it was created and what Tom's brain thinks why something is good and bad, you can like bypass that. But I think the tooling is just not there yet, but hopefully we get there.
I also think that over time, one, we're all littered with tech debt, so like figuring out what parts of the code are valid and what are not is a problem. But I don't know, it just seems like over time we're zooming further and further away from the code, and like maybe code-based taste doesn't matter as much anymore. And like really the thing that matters is like, can you verify that the thing that I want to see happen happens? And like that's really the important part here, and I think that that's kind of like what you're alluding to.
Yeah, because we live in this single-player world. I create something, I give to somebody else, and then they start from scratch. And then you only save the output, which is the code. But the real interesting thing is like, how do you get to the code? What was your chat history? Like, blah, blah, blah. And I think that will actually make a lot of the code review redundant.
Time for one last question. Who's going to be the lucky person? You at the back. Yeah, go for it.
Can't believe it.
Yeah, so actually a follow-up to what you just called. So there's like this whole of spectrum development and all the things around it. The problem I observed in my there's a post on Martin Fowler's Salesforce website saying that there are like 3 stages of spectrum development where it's spec anchored, where the spec is the main part of your work, And then like this approach where spec is basically a means to generate code, like the spec from GitHub, for example, which is basically a throwaway spec. You cannot modify and work on it continuously. So the question is, were any of you able to use that approach at some scale in your companies? Because I have tried it on some parts of the product we were building, and yeah, I had the same pain that I was building this spec and then just throwing it away after getting the code generated, because I couldn't modify it and iterate based on the spec to generate new versions of the code.
Yeah, we're actually, at least like my little bubble within the company is like starting to experiment with this a little bit more. I think
Just killed another startup.
yeah, no, like experiment with it like for ourselves, right? Like and
That's how it starts.
yeah, it always starts with the devs. It's we're running into a lot of the same type of conversations and problems that you described. You know, it's nice and dandy that you don't have to write code anymore, but now you gotta really make sure your spec is good. And like, if you ask Claude to write that spec for you, then like you probably are thinking about it wrong. Like you probably want to really make sure, like if that's gonna be the input to the output, make sure that that input is high quality. But I don't know. I don't think that that's enough. I think we need more. We need more. What are those things called when you go bowling? When you have these things on the sides, the gutter protectors things. Yeah, those. We need more bumpers in for now at least to prevent these things from doing stupid things.
Do you think that original spec like needs to hang around?
Yes. So a positive aspect of the fact that we are specking a lot of our code is it's funny. It's almost like we went back to PRDs after like killing them for like a month. But a really nice artifact of that is that we now we know when there's drift. And we know when there's inconsistencies, and like particularly to our API team, like we care a lot about the design of the API, making sure that things make sense and that there's no like incompatible things. And like when it notices that certain parts of the spec look very different from the other parts of the spec, or that the code doesn't agree to the spec, it goes and it yells at us and it pings me on Slack.
This is one of those things where we build the bumpers, and in a year the bumpers are not necessary because the model is just smarter. Which, like with most of those things, I feel like we're building around a model, and then at some point, like, oh, you don't need a to-do list anymore because the agent knows what it does and stuff like that.
I think so. I don't know, man. Sometimes I'm like, I'm too AGI pilled, and then sometimes I'm like, I'm not AGI pilled enough. I go back and forth every couple of days. I'm so non-committal. But I think so. Like maybe eventually we will not even have repositories. Maybe it'll look very, very different, and all code is just in time. I don't know. Maybe ask somebody who's more philosophical than me.
I think we try and like stay focused on the nearer term. Like as soon as you start thinking about AGI or like what if it's all projected into our eyes, it's like, okay, well, I mean, yes, maybe, but there's a lot of problems to solve between now and then, and we're happy to do that.
I almost feel like the term AGI pilled is like a crutch that people use to like either do or not do something, and it's like, well, your customers, like there's latent demand for something your customers want right now. Like, why are you not building that? Like that is so obviously the thing you should focus on.
I think that's an interesting thing. I think we started with like sometimes what you prioritize. I think it's exactly that, right? Like you look at your customers and think about what do they need today, tomorrow. If you solve those and continue to solve those, you're probably ending up somewhere good, but it's hard to tell where you're going to end up with.
Cool. So we're all AGI built.
Of course.
Thank you guys so much for doing this. This was really fun.